Chamorro sweetbread. We're going to start off with our bowl of sugar, yeast, and warm water. So in this bowl, I have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, and then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of warm water. So the water gets very hot in the microwave in just a few seconds. You should be able to touch the water, and it's very warm, but it's not hot. You're going to go ouch, right? About 100 to 110 degrees max. Give this a little stir. Then we'll add our yeast. 3 packets of active dry. Okay, that's active dry yeast. Active dry and rapid rise. The envelopes look very similar at the store. Okay, so make sure it says active dry. We're going to put this in the oven with only the light turned on. So don't actually turn the oven on, but you do want to put the light on. Goes into your closed oven for 15 minutes. While your yeast is proofing in the oven, we'll go ahead and mix up your mashed potato and milk mixture. So this is a russet potato that I boiled, then peeled, then smashed, and measured 1 cup. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of warm whole milk and 2½ teaspoons of regular salt. Okay, just kind of incorporate all of that. When I first started to work on my Chamorro sweetbread recipe, of course I'd asked a couple of people and they wouldn't share. So I did my research on sweetbreads. A lot of the recipes that came back were Portuguese sweetbread and Hawaiian sweetbread. They were all shaped differently into loaves and such. But what I did notice, especially in looking at the ingredient list of King's Hawaiian bread, is that these recipes had potatoes in them, either the potato water, mashed potatoes, potato flakes. So I tried the original recipes. It didn't taste like what we would normally eat or think of as Chamorro sweetbread. Made changes, added this, that, and voila. I have 8 whole eggs, warm eggs in this bowl. Then I'm going to add 1 3/4 cups of sugar. Just go over the edges of the bowl or the sides of the bowl. I've got this mixer speed on low. Hike it up to medium if you like. Okay, so I'm going to add a 1/2 cup or 1 stick of melted butter. It's not right out of the microwave or right off the stove, but it is melted. Turn your mixer back to low and just slowly add to incorporate it. Look at that. Looks really good, huh? Butter, sugar, and eggs. Okay. So I've got my yeast mixture out of the oven. Just give it a stir. See how bubbly that came to be. Okay, now we want to get the mashed potato milk and salt mixture into the yeast. And stir that together. Make sure it's well combined. All right, now I've got my egg and sugar mixture. Go ahead and pour in the yeast and potato. And give it a whirl. This almost looks like creme anglaise, or the vanilla base of ice cream. Look how pretty that is. Nice and smooth. Okay, that's done. I'm just going to do a quick demo on how I scoop my flour. Okay, so what I do is you make sure that in your bigger container of flour you fluff it up a little bit and then run your measuring cup through and shake it off. Okay, some people, what they do is they have 2 measuring cups and they pour the flour into the other measuring cup and then run the flat edge of a knife. Okay, but for this particular recipe I'm using, just make sure when you are measuring your flour out of your primary flour container, you loosen the flour, scoop it up, and shake it off. Okay? In this bowl, I already have 9.5 cups of flour. So we'll set that aside. And then get a larger container because you want to pour your liquid mix in there. Just use your hand to scoop out all of that at the bottom. Okay, and then you're going to slowly add your flour. So first I'm going to put about 3 cups in there. Okay, and just incorporate it. Then add 3 more cups. Okay. Oh, like I said before, I need an extra hand. Coming together nicely. Look at that pretty yellow color. Lots of eggs. All right. Now, depending on the humidity in your area or the time of year, you might have to add a tiny bit more flour, but not too much, otherwise your rolls are going to be hard. This actually looks good. Sticky, sticky. Whew. Okay, I'm going to add just a little bit more flour. Okay, 1/4 cup at a time. Your dough should be just a little bit sticky. As it proofs, it will lose some of its stickiness. Tiny bit more. Okay, it was about a total of a 1/4 cup. And that'll be good. Okay, just get it thoroughly incorporated. It's getting heavy. It's pulling away from the bottom, so that's a good sign. Good way to tell that you have enough flour, even if it is sticky. Okay, because too much flour, it's going to be rock hard. Ooh, so clean this off and give it one more round in here. Smells yummy. Smells good. Okay. See how you could just pull it off? If I started back with clean hands, it wouldn't be sticking so much, but anyways, this is good. I lightly sprayed the inside of this bowl with non-stick pan spray. Go ahead and dump your dough right into there. It'll come out right. Okay. All right, just pat it down nicely and give it a whirl there. All right. Nice pretty ball of dough. Okay, cover it with plastic wrap that you also sprayed lightly with pan spray. Just make it loose. This will help keep the gas bubbles and the temperature inside your dough warmer, so it will rise faster. Put this back in your oven with the light turned on for an hour until it doubles in size. So if the dough has not doubled in size, you need to leave it in there longer. Okay, my dough has poofed up some. I actually let this proof for an hour and 15. It's a little bit cooler today. Spray your hands with nonstick spray, and then you can knead this for 10 minutes. You can also get your dough out onto your rolling surface. Just put a little bit of flour underneath, pick one end up, and turn and press. Okay, rolling this dough or kneading this dough on my table, I can get more of my body weight into the dough compared to kneading your dough on a countertop, which is generally higher than a tabletop. Okay, so we're going to knead this for 10 minutes. Anytime you have to put a little bit more flour at the bottom here, go ahead, just a tiny bit. Okay, spray your bowl again with pan spray. Put the dough folded side down and cover it again. Put it back in your oven for another hour, hour and 15 till it doubles in size. Okay, look at this dough. I actually let this proof in the oven for about an hour and 45 minutes. And it looked like it needed extra time. And you spray your hand with pan spray. Okay, I'm going to get this out onto my board and knead it for 10 minutes. Just the same way we kneaded it before. You see, it's nice and soft if you could feel it. 10 minutes, then we'll get to cut and shape it, roll it into smaller pieces, and set it in our baking pans to rise yet again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I like my little balls to be as perfect as, or as similar as I can get them. That way they're nicely looking. So this is 1/4 of the dough I had. I'm going to cut it in half, and then in half again, and in half. And let's see how much this weighs. Should be about 1½ ounces. Okay, so that's 1 3. Add a little bit more. Okay, that's 1 1/4. Pull this off. I have a scale here that I've had since forever ago. That's too big, 1.9. I've had the scale since 1997, and I love it. Okay, 1½ A little less. So I'm going to get all of my balls measured here. Then I'll show you how to roll them. It's a really neat trick I learned working at a bakery here in North Carolina. Here. Okay, you're going to need a dry surface, and I like using my tabletop. You have a mound of dough. You can put it in the middle. You're going to cup your hands around the dough, kind of like you're going to pray. Open it up a little bit. You're going to move in a counter, or rather a clockwise motion, to get this looking into a nice pretty ball. Okay, so it takes a few seconds for the ball to get sticky. Look, nice. No seams or anything on top, so you have a pretty ball of dough there at the top. There we go. You can clasp your fingers if you like. Depends on what you're comfortable with. Okay, so if it's looking terrible, roll it again. And look for a nice side. There we go. As nice as you can get it, I guess. I have an 8x8 glass baking dish filled with 16 balls of dough. Spray a sheet of plastic wrap with nonstick spray. Cover the baking dish, put it back in the oven for 45 minutes to an hour so that the balls can proof and rise to double in size. I have a couple of trays of my Chamorro sweetbread dough. They're already proofed and ready to go into the oven. 350 degrees, you want to preheat your oven and bake for about 25 minutes, just until the tops of the bread turn a golden brown. I'm going to make the topping for my bread. I'm not going to frost it all today, so I'm just making half of the sugar. I have a half stick of butter with 1/4 cup of sugar. And just smash this to combine. Get it all incorporated. And when the buns come out, they're hot, so you just grab a pastry brush and apply this. Just a very light coating to give it a shiny glaze, and once it completely cools down, you can apply a thicker coating of sugar and butter. I've got my big tray out. Took 23 minutes. Just coating it with a light brushing of sugar and butter. All right, just get it all over there. Now we're just waiting on the rest. Okay, that's good. Let it completely cool on a wire rack. If you don't want the crumbly sugar on top, just melt some butter and apply that. A very light coating all over. If you wanted, you can also dissolve a little bit of sugar in the butter as you melt it on the stove top, so the glaze will be slightly sweet. Okay, just let it get into the crevices. There you go. I've got my last baking dish out, and this one, again, I'm just going to brush it lightly with melted butter. Tomorrow, I will apply a very thick coat of unmelted, unsalted butter and sugar, so you'll actually see the thick layer of sugar and butter over the cooled down buns. Otherwise, we're done. One of the small trays I'll freeze for another date.